On the plane back to get divorced with Ethan, we both met with an accident. Before the plane crash, he said, if I could do it all over again, I would marry Joy. Only with her do I feel that life is vibrant. When I opened my eyes again, I was back on the day he proposed to me. He picked up the flowers in his hands, turned, and ran towards Joy in the crowd, kneeling on one knee. Joy, will you marry me? I know he has also been reborn. As he wished, I fulfilled them. But later, he regretted it and knelt down to beg me to change my mind. Joy, in disbelief, covered her mouth with her hands and nodded repeatedly, tears of surprise streaming down her face as the two embraced tightly. The onlookers who were unaware of the truth all cheered and offered their blessings. But someone still asked doubtfully, isn't Ethan going to propose to Luna? How did it turn into Joy? Exactly, Ethan said in the group that it's Luna, and he asked us to come and cheer her on. What's the situation now? Who knows? The two embraced tightly for a long time. Ethan turned around and picked up the microphone. Thank you all for coming today to witness our love. In the past, I didn't know my true feelings, but now I do. I have always liked Joy. In the past, I missed my chance with her, and for the rest of my life, I don't want to miss it again. I am willing to spend my life with her, hand in hand until we grow old. He looked at me again and said, a forced melon is not sweet, our past was a mistake. I hope we can part on good terms, main classmate, please do not linger. The tinnitus caused by the explosion gradually faded away, and I was reborn on the day Ethan was supposed to propose to me in my previous life. Looking at Ethan in front of me, and recalling what he said in the last moments of the previous life about choosing Joy if given another chance, I know he has also been reborn. At this moment, his gaze was exactly like that of his 38-year-old self in the previous life, cold and rational. Years of decision-making in the business world had made his demeanor mature and composed. At this time, we were still second-year students, and Ethan and I had been in a relationship for 2 years. He chose to inform all his familiar classmates and friends on Valentine's Day, setting up a huge flower arrangement on the playground at night to propose to me. In fact, this proposal is also due to Joy. Joy is a year above us, the lead singer of a band, beautiful, lively, flamboyant, carefree, and bold in love and hate. At the welcome meeting, she fell in love with Ethan at first sight, repeatedly showing her affection for him, sending breakfast, giving gifts, and deliberately creating opportunities for the two of them to be alone during student council activities. Even if they know of my existence, they would say, after all, we're not married, life should be bolder. When you meet someone you like, you should take the initiative. How will you know who the right person is if you don't give it a try? Ethan always had a cold expression towards her, but she still stuck by his side with a bright smile. Ethan was annoyed and planned to propose to me on Valentine's Day, making it clear to Joy that he was going to marry me and that he wouldn't like Joy. In the last life, when Ethan proposed to me, Joy stood at the front of the crowd, wearing a red dress, passionate and flamboyant, shouting at Ethan, "Ethan, have you thought it through? If you really succeed in your proposal, I will really stop liking you. I ask you one last time, do you really want to be with me or not?" In his previous life, Ethan declared emphatically, "The only wife I will have in this life is Luna. I only love Luna, and I hope senior sister will stop entangling with me." But now, he says that our feelings are a mistake and that I shouldn't cling to them. Facing the curious gazes of those around us, I looked at their tightly clasped hands and said softly, "Of course, from this moment on, we are breaking up, and from now on, there will be no more ties between us." Hearing my words, Ethan let out a sigh of relief. Joy excitedly jumped onto him, her legs wrapping around his waist. "I knew you would be mine. But you took so long to agree to be with me, you have to make it up to me." "Alright, what kind of compensation do you want?" "I want to feel the sensation of flying on a motorcycle." "No problem, it's a piece of cake." "I want to go to the top of the mountain to sing." "Okay." "I want to taste all the drinks in the bars." "No problem." Ethan looked at her with indulgence, as if he were gazing at a treasure that had been lost and found again. The crowd applauded and cheered in unison, "Kiss! Kiss! Kiss!" My roommate stood up for me. Ethan is being too much. Isn't this public cheating? He talks so grandly about understanding his own feelings. Where was he before? Why does he have to say he wants to break up now? Exactly, calling all the classmates over, originally to propose to Luna, but ended up breaking up in front of so many people, and seamlessly moving on to the next one. What a scumbag. I turned to greet them. Let's go. Didn't you say there's a bar opening today? Come on, it's on me. Watching me calmly drink cup after cup. They were all very worried, urging me to let it go, saying there was no need to be sad over that kind of scumbag. I smiled and hugged them, saying that I was actually happy. I really was happy to be away from him. Speaking of which, Ethan and I are neighbors, childhood friends, from families of equal standing, and a marriage between our families is inevitable. We have also been automatically paired together by both families. With encouragement and support all the way, we agreed to date after getting into college and to marry after graduation. Everything would come naturally. In our previous life, after marriage, our lives gradually became filled with work, daily necessities, and child education, and the feelings between us slowly faded. He has said more than once that life lacks passion, is too smooth, and is meaningless. At that time, Joy had become a somewhat famous rock singer, and her vibrant and passionate figure dancing at music festivals often captivated Ethan for a long time. Even if it was just a video, he would watch it repeatedly. Later, he deliberately found reasons to get close to her. At that time, Joy adhered to a philosophy of living for the moment, advocated against marriage, and had just broken up with her last boyfriend. One approached with intention, the other with carefree ease. The adult man and woman needed little language, and they engaged in several encounters. I will naturally question it after I find out, but he said I could also find other men, and no one would care about anyone. Looking at his indifferent gaze, and the lack of the tenderness and affection he once had for me, I proposed a divorce. He didn't agree at first. After all, dividing our assets was quite complicated, but in the end, he compromised under my insistence. Just looking at me with a mocking gaze, sure enough, being with someone carefree and unrestrained is the happiest. The half-month I've spent with Joy has surpassed all the happiness of my first half of life. The unrestrained exuberance I never had in my youth, I finally possess it now. You, a child raised in a wealthy family, follow the rules step by step, your mind is always rational, and your heart only knows profit and loss. You will never understand what a passionate and vibrant life is like. I only feel that I never noticed before that he had such a foolish and naive side. He thought he had grasped the true essence of life, not realizing that without a material foundation to support it, even the most carefree and extravagant life is just a castle built of loose sand, easily scattered by the wind. Due to drinking too much alcohol, I went to the bathroom again. Passing by a booth that wasn't closed tightly, I happened to hear someone asking, "I say Ethan, what you did on the playground today was really unexpected. I heard you and Luna grew up together. Do you really not like her anymore?" Ethan took a puff of his cigarette and blew out a smoke ring. Childhood sweethearts? It's just because we grew up together and our parents played matchmaker that I thought I liked her. It's just an ordinary friendship. Her rational and calm personality is not what I like at all. Then who do you really like? Someone teased. Ethan pulled Joy into an embrace. Of course it's Joy. The corridor was narrow, and someone passing by bumped into me, causing the half-open door to swing wide as I unintentionally pushed it open. The people inside turned to look at me, and they all fell silent. Ethan tapped the cigarette into the ashtray, frowned at me, and said, "Didn't we already agree to break up? You won't cling on, will you? What are you doing here now?" Joy immediately sat on Ethan's lap, wrapping her arms around his neck to assert her claim. I said it from the beginning, no one knows the final outcome until the end. Now that Ethan has chosen me, you wouldn't want to take him back, would you? Ethan comfortingly patted her shoulder. Don't worry, I won't go back on my word. I couldn't help but laugh. These two really are quite a match, both so narcissistic. Don't worry, just passing by. I'm not in the garbage collection business. In the moment I turned to leave, I saw Ethan's face darken for an instant. The feelings that had long been worn away in the previous life now remained not a trace. I no longer had any ripples regarding the life they enjoyed. In the moment I turned around, I bumped into someone's embrace. My hand instinctively pressed against the other person's chest for support. It's quite firm. Looking up, I was surprised to see Leo. The prince of the Gu family in the north of the city, 5 years older than me, who had just finished his studies abroad and taken over the family business this year. In the dimly lit bar, he wore a black shirt, buttoned all the way to the top, his cold and handsome face complemented by the dark lighting, exuding an air of extreme restraint. Jingwei lowered his head and glanced over. Realizing that I was still resting on his chest, I awkwardly cleared my throat and stepped back to apologize. At this moment, someone in the private room spoke again. Actually, Luna is quite beautiful. Ethan, since you two have broken up, I might just pursue her. Whatever. Can I ask a personal question, have you two? Ethan scoffed, she's very conservative, she insists on being engaged before anything happens, boring and rigid. Hey, then I have to take on a challenge. Joy's dissatisfied voice came out, if you succeed in proposing tonight, won't you be able to embrace the beauty? Now you are the beauty, to celebrate our being together, how about coming to my house tonight? Disgusting. The man in front had a dark and unclear expression, his voice magnetic. Broke up? Are you single now? Listening to the topic inside, I frowned in disgust. The excess alcohol was piling up in my stomach, making it a bit unbearable. I responded casually and hurriedly made my way to the bathroom. Just as I was about to bump into someone ahead, I was grabbed by the waist, and I couldn't hold it any longer. With a wow, I vomited all over the person's shirt in front of me. The black shirt instantly had a 3-dimensional pattern. I'm sorry. Wow. Now there's no need to go to the bathroom, everything has been thrown up cleanly. Both of their clothes and shoes are all dirty. I covered my face, feeling embarrassed for the first time. I heard him telling the waiter to clean up while asking me if there was a hotel upstairs and whether I wanted to book a room to freshen up first. I nodded slightly. Perhaps I had drunk too much and then vomited too much all at once, my legs felt a bit weak. He said, I'm very sorry, and picked me up in a hug to take me to the elevator. After finishing my wash, I looked at Leo, who was standing still, with a surprised expression. He explained that this room only has this one bathroom, so I quickly made way. At that moment, my roommate called and said that the dormitory closing time was approaching, and I should head back. I can only briefly explain that they should go back first, and later I will book a room at the hotel. At this moment, someone knocked on the door, and someone brought a few sets of clothes, 1 men's outfit, 3 women's outfits, and some honey water. I looked at the glass door of the bathroom, pondering how to repay this favor. Listening to the sound of water splashing in the bathroom, I suddenly remembered that I had casually thrown my underwear onto the sink after my shower, and now the bathrobe and towel are all on me. I clenched my fists and silently shouted. The me from my previous life, who rarely made mistakes, had already experienced 2 embarrassing incidents right after being reborn. I was truly on the verge of a breakdown. I hurried out to the front desk to book a room, but all the rooms were fully booked, and there were no bathrobes left. However, the front desk found some bath towels and towels. Hearing the sound of water stop inside, I quickly leaned in and said I took a new towel. I turned my back and handed it to him through the crack in the door, accidentally brushing against his finger, and I couldn't help but flinch a little. When he came out, drying his hair, he looked at the 6-pack abs exposed outside the towel, with droplets of water continuously sliding down. Perhaps because I had been drinking, my face felt unbearably hot. I quickly turned my back and said that someone had brought clothes and honey water. He paused as he rubbed his hair. I don't know what size you wear, so I bought 3 different sizes. Take a look and see which one fits. Honey water helps with hangovers, I got it for you. Thank you. I then said gloomily that the hotel was fully booked, and I didn't know what was going on, so many people were staying at the hotel. He thought for a moment and raised his eyebrows, saying, it might be because of Valentine's Day. I suddenly remembered this too, and as soon as the topic came up, the atmosphere seemed a bit awkward. I awkwardly smiled and said, I'll go check out other hotels, so I don't disturb you and your girlfriend. He walked up to me, his six-pack abs directly facing me as I sat on the sofa, feeling a bit parched. He looked at me seriously and said, I don't have a girlfriend. He passed by me and took the hairdryer, adding, I guess other hotels are full too, and you, as a girl, shouldn't be going around looking for hotels late at night. I frowned. At this hour, my parents would definitely want to get to the bottom of things when I got home. Especially my mom, who, after seeing so many news reports about school bullying, might overthink it if I came back late. If I mentioned the situation with Yibachin, they probably wouldn't sleep well that night either. Actually, you can sleep here first, you take the bed, and I'll take the sofa. My subtle gaze looked at him. He couldn't help but laugh and explained, our two families have business dealings with each other, don't worry, I won't do anything to you. Speaking of this, it reminds me that in his last life, he never got married, but the group's business developed very well under his leadership. There have always been rumors in the circle that he doesn't like women, or that he has some illness. Thinking of this, I felt relieved. Without a partner, there was nothing to worry about. Moreover, looking at his strong chest, six-pack abs, long and powerful legs, especially that handsome face. If something really happened, it wouldn't be a loss. As soon as I relaxed, the languor from the wine kicked in. He finished drying his hair and looked at my long curls. Aren't you going to dry yours? I touched it, it was already half dry. I took the hairdryer and gave it a quick blow. The more I blew, the more awake I felt. The two people sat in awkward silence. After a while, I looked at my phone and said, it's too late, let's rest for now. Turning off the light, a person's senses became sharper. Just as drowsiness was starting to take over, I suddenly heard some ambiguous sounds coming from nearby, and I instantly remembered that the hotel was fully booked for Valentine's Day today. It might be due to the approaching menstrual period, and my mood has become a bit irritable. I opened my eyes and listened to the sounds from the other side of the wall, feeling another presence in the room. I whispered, are you asleep? No. It might be because of the alcohol, or perhaps because I once died and wanted to indulge again, or maybe it was just the right atmosphere, the right mood. Looking at the exposed calf on the sofa in the moonlight, I swallowed hard and said, the bed is quite big, do you want to come sleep on the bed? His voice became deep, do you know what you're saying? I suddenly remembered the rumors from my past life, are you not capable? Medical technology is quite advanced now, so if there's something wrong, don't be shy about seeking treatment. Otherwise, you'll be single for a lifetime. Feeling the bed sink on the other side, he propped himself above me. Is this a challenge? You can feel whether I can do it or not. Feeling the heat beneath me, my body tensed up, and I boldly reached out my hand. We won't know until we try. A night of ups and downs. It seems the rumors were wrong, not only was it doable, but it was quite successful. The next day, I woke up with an unbearable soreness in my lower back. There was no one in the room, so I tidied up a bit and went out. Just as I reached the hotel entrance, I ran into Leo. He pointed to the several lunch boxes in his hand. I went to buy some breakfast. Are you going back to school now? I'll give you a ride. I wasn't feeling well, and I didn't put on airs. I sat in his car, taking a sip of milk and a bite of sandwich. As he was about to get out of the car, he picked up his phone and shook it. Add me on WeChat? His fingers rhythmically tapped on the steering wheel, and his gaze towards me was filled with aggression. As a 38-year-old soul, I naturally understand. After thinking for a moment, I smiled and said, all right. On the way to class, I ran into Ethan and Joy. I ignored them and continued walking, but Ethan blocked my path. Where did you go last night? This is my business, aren't you meddling a bit too much, classmate? His expression was a bit unpleasant. Someone saw you being carried upstairs to a hotel by a man yesterday. Who is that man? What happened between you two? I scoffed. Who I choose to be with is my freedom. If I remember correctly, we broke up yesterday. What you're saying makes me think you still have feelings for me. Joy's expression also changed as she broke free from Ethan's arm. She can go to the hotel with whoever she wants, why do you care so much? You can't really still have feelings for her, can you? Ethan pulled her arm and coaxed, I only cared because you're my neighbor. My feelings for you are as clear as day, now my heart holds only you. Otherwise, why would I have chosen you in front of so many people yesterday? Ethan looked at me, don't get me wrong, I broke up with you yesterday. I'm worried that you might be unable to let go of me and have been feeling down, so you casually seek out others to provoke me. As long as it's not that, it's fine. I let out a cold laugh and said, sometimes it's better not to be too narcissistic, there isn't just you as a man in this world. You've started a new life, and naturally, I will have a new boyfriend too. Ignoring his furrowed brows, I turned and walked away. Overly narcissistic and double-standard, just because Joy pursued him for 2 years, did he think his charm was boundless? The discussions at school about the dramatic proposal scene on Valentine's Day gradually faded away. Ethan and Joy's CP fans began to increase. He rode his bike with her, feeling the summer breeze on campus, just like the leads in a campus idol drama. They kissed at the top of the mountain, vowing to love each other for a lifetime. They rode their motorcycles down the road at night, feeling the thrill of speed. They sang loudly by the seaside at night, experiencing the freedom of life. They tattoo each other's names on their waists to express their deep love. At this time, Joy is singing and has already gained some fans on social media. In addition, she often operates by taking couple photos and videos, and some passionate love captions have attracted a crowd to watch. Many people say they are a perfect match, like the male and female leads in a novel. And Ethan, just as he hoped in his previous life, finally has a passionate and unrestrained youth. When Ethan posted a photo of himself with Joy on Facebook, both our families learned the whole story. My parents were furious. I can only advise that it's better to talk about these things early on, it's much better than entering into marriage and then cheating. To put their minds at ease, I also told them that I currently have no feelings for Ethan. They need not worry about it. Mom looked at me with satisfaction and nodded, you have always been rational. When it comes to emotions, you must leave a little room for yourself, so that you can retreat unscathed when facing changes. Dad pondered, it seems that we need to change the partner for the project in the north of the city. I remained silent. In my previous life, Ethan and I were a couple, and our family's business collaborations always prioritized each other. In the previous life, the project in the north of the city sought the Yi family, but I knew that the Yi family was not the most suitable. It was just that, because of Ethan and me, I thought it would be better to keep the benefits within our circle and also strengthen the relationship between the two families. But since we cannot become a family in this life, we should just consider who we can cooperate with for greater benefit. My studies are not very busy, so in my spare time, I go to the company to intern. I also often attend some business banquets to broaden my horizons and build connections. This weekend, I attended an elder's 80th birthday. After greeting my dad and a few elders, I walked over to the dessert area to take a short break. At this moment, Ethan's brother came over with a glass of wine and said, Miss Luna, you look very beautiful today. I thanked him politely. He took a sip of the wine in his glass and looked at me, asking, I heard your father's project in the north of the city still hasn't found a partner? I shook my head and said, I don't know, this matter is being handled by my father. He chuckled softly, my big brother really threw away a good hand, lost the watermelon, and might not even pick up the sesame seeds. He dares to be absent on an occasion like today. I neither agree nor disagree. He looked at me with a teasing smile and said, speaking of which, I'm only 2 years younger than Miss Luna. Why doesn't Miss Luna consider me? I politely declined, saying that I wanted to stay for a while, before sending the person away. A low, husky voice came from beside me, Miss Luna is quite in demand. Looking at the newcomer, I tightened my grip on the cup and said, Mr. Leo, eavesdropping is not the behavior of a gentleman. He leaned slightly closer to me and whispered, a gentleman remains composed in the presence of beauty, but in front of Miss Luna, I truly cannot be a gentleman. The nearby body instantly reminded me of that absurd and chaotic night. I shook the wine glass in my hand, What do you mean by that, Mr. Leo? That was the youngest son of the Yi family, right? He's too young. If you're looking for a partner, Miss Luna could consider me. What do you think? I looked at the mature and charming man in front of me, thinking of his business maneuvers in the coming years, and I had to admit that he was very capable and shrewd. If I were to find him as a partner. Just as I was about to respond, a distant murmur of whispers arose. Turning to look, I realized that Ethan had actually come, and not only that, he had brought Joy along with him. The two people must have just returned from riding a motorcycle, still dressed in their motorcycle gear, which was completely out of place among the crowd in suits and formal attire. Ethan's father was speaking to him in a low voice, looking very angry. Joy, on the other hand, was comfortably holding Ethan's arm, looking here and there. After greeting the old man celebrating his birthday, Ethan led Joy over. Are you hungry? Didn't you just have fried noodles? Do I want to try the snacks here? Let's see if the ones at the rich people's banquet are different from those in ordinary shops. All right, as you wish. The two people were being intimate as if no one was around, and when they saw me, Ethan gave a faint nod. Joy took a piece here, a piece there. She picked up her phone and took a selfie. Finally, holding a piece of cake, she walked in front of me and turned around. You rich people really value the sense of ceremony. When someone has a birthday party, you all have to wear formal dresses and suits, making it seem quite important. Someone next to them couldn't take it anymore. Dressing like this for a banquet shows politeness, but you came here in a full motorcycle outfit with your hair all messed up. Isn't that a bit disrespectful? Joy touched her hair and said, "This is my casual style." That old man who just had a birthday praised us young people for our youth and vitality, saying we are sincere and straightforward. But you guys, don't you get tired of pretending every day? As soon as these words were spoken, the expressions of those who heard them turned to anger, along with some directed at Ethan. Ethan stood in front of Joy and coldly apologized. Joy is truly sincere and straightforward. I hope everyone won't mind. After all, it's not good for the old man's birthday banquet to get out of hand. In his previous life, he sat in a high position, and others flattered him. Even when he was indifferent, no one would say anything. But now he is just a college student who hasn't entered the company and holds no position, yet he speaks so coldly, instantly drawing dissatisfied looks from those around him. A peer asked, "Ethan, what do you actually like about her?" Clearly, Luna has a great family background, looks, and abilities. In an instant, all the gazes around fell upon me. Ethan frowned and glanced at me. Luna is nice, but for me, Joy is the best. He immediately took Joy's hand and said that what he liked most was Joy's frankness and enthusiasm. Being with her made him feel relaxed and happy. Joy boldly and directly gave him a passionate kiss on the spot. This caused the expressions of those around to turn unpleasant. To commit such a rude act in such a formal setting is truly unbecoming. Someone mocked, "Are you acting in a soap opera here?" I heard that after the banquet, Ethan's father gave him a huge scolding. He told him to break up with Joy and to apologize to me, saying that only I could help him in his career. Ethan disagreed, saying he was capable and didn't need to rely on a woman, and they parted on bad terms. I let out a sigh of relief. Ethan is already on my blacklist, so let him firmly stay with Joy. Please don't turn back to look for me, otherwise I will be so disgusted that I won't be able to sleep. Father ultimately chose to collaborate with Leo on the project in the north of the city. Father spoke highly of Leo. Therefore, Leo came over for dinner once. In the afternoon, I planned to return to school, and Leo said he would give me a ride since it was on his way. Just as I was about to get out of the car, the door was still locked, and I looked at him in confusion. He tapped his fingers on the steering wheel, his gaze carrying a hint of aggression. Miss Luna hasn't given me an answer about the banquet hall. I suddenly remembered, squinting at him, "Are you serious? Do I look like I'm joking?" I looked at his slightly nervous expression and smiled, "Sure." He stared at me in a daze. "What? Mr. Leo wants to talk to me about a relationship, right?" I agreed. If I had to choose someone for a marriage alliance, Leo is indeed a good option, at least in his last life. he remained single and had no scandals. He stared at me intently. Do you really agree? I smiled and ran my index finger along his chin. Mr. Leo is good-looking and capable, so agreeing to you should be a normal thing. Mr. Leo is very surprised? He grabbed my hand. It's a bit hard to believe. I leaned in and kissed his lips, giving them a gentle bite. Do you believe it now? His deep-set eyes were swirling with emotions as he pressed my head back, taking the initiative. They only parted when both were breathless. He stroked my lips. Summer vacation is coming soon. What are you planning to do? I originally planned to intern at my family's company during the summer vacation, but looking at Leo, I suddenly changed my mind. How about interning at your company for 2 months? He smiled and said, You don't want to part with me? I replied honestly, It's well known that you are capable. I want to be your apprentice. Will you give me the opportunity? Delighted to the extreme. Thus, during the summer vacation, I stayed by Leo's side as an assistant, truly experiencing his keen insight into industry trends and his decisive approach to handling matters. He is truly a workaholic, often working overtime until midnight, and he is very disciplined, getting up at 6 every day to start exercising. Moreover, he was also sufficiently self-disciplined. When attending banquets, there were beautiful women showing him attention, but he politely declined. I teased him, asking if he really wasn't moved. He replied that if he were to accept the benefits, he would have to give up a few percentage points, and for him, the contract was still the most important. If it weren't for feeling his energy at night, I would have doubted whether he really had an illness. One time after, I asked him, if he hadn't met me, would he have remained single like this forever? He thought for a moment and said, I don't know, because he has already made plans for the GU group for the next 20 years. It could be that he's busy with work, or perhaps he just found the right person to be with. I couldn't help but complain in my heart, You've been single for over 40 years and still haven't met the right one. I asked him why he chose me. He said he didn't know either, that he first met me at a banquet, and he later inquired about me, but at that time I was with Ethan. Later, upon learning that we had broken up, he took the initiative. 5 years passed unknowingly. After graduating from university, I went abroad to study further, at Leo's suggestion. With what I've learned by his side, I feel that my abilities are now very strong. I am becoming increasingly adept at managing the company, advancing projects, and appointing personnel. In the year I returned to my country, Leo successfully proposed to me. And during these 5 years, Ethan and Joy have been living a carefree and extravagant life. They graduated wearing suits and wedding dresses, and their graduation wedding even trended online. It was praised as the best representation of love. In her previous life, the anti-marriage Joy married the man she had pursued for 2 years, while Ethan, just as he had said in the last life, married the passionate and vibrant Joy. We have different pursuits and have lived the lives we wanted. I thought this was the end. However, life is like creating a collection of mistakes. There will always be someone who will personally overturn everything they have done before. Ethan has already started working at the company, and Joy has become a rock singer. I've heard from friends that the two of them have broken up and gotten back together several times. Due to their increasing number of fans, along with Ethan's identity, their romantic stories often trend on social media. I understand that life should be lived with passion. But recently, the news of their breakup has been incessant. Someone captured footage of Ethan and Joy arguing. There are also videos of Joy dancing passionately with other men at the bar. I just thought I would casually glance at the gossip news, then I started getting busy with work and wedding arrangements. That day after work, Leo was holding my hand and leading me outside when an unexpected number called on my phone. I pressed the answer button and heard the other side say to look not far to the side. Ethan was standing there, looking at me with his phone in hand. Leo held my hand tightly, and I comforted him by patting him. Wait for me a moment, it should be work-related, I'll be back soon. We are all in the same circle, and I have met Ethan a few times, mostly in work settings. He kissed my forehead as if to declare ownership, and I was left feeling both amused and helpless. I only noticed the strong smell of smoke on Ethan when I walked up to him. I looked at him lightly and said, it's better to discuss work matters during office hours. He tugged at the corner of his mouth and looked at me. Have you been well lately? I raised an eyebrow. Pretty good. He didn't seem to be talking about work, and I didn't need to stay any longer. Just as I was about to say goodbye and leave, he pulled out another cigarette and lit it. I'm not doing very well. I frowned at his cigarette and quietly stepped back 2 paces. From his confession, I learned that since graduating and joining the company, he had spent less time with Joy. But Joy still calls friends and often goes out to parties, living a carefree and wild life together. Sometimes she would get close to some men, and Ethan naturally had to question it, leading to more and more frequent arguments between the two. Joy said that Ethan doesn't compensate her, and Ethan said that Joy doesn't understand the hardship of supporting a family. Joy said it's enough to enjoy life in the moment, why bother making so much money? Life brings nothing and death takes nothing, but Ethan doesn't think that way at his core. For him, money is the foundation of everything. In the past, I had my family's support while I was in school, but now that I've graduated and joined a company, I have to earn my own money. Moreover, Ethan has 2 older brothers and 2 younger brothers, 2 of whom are illegitimate children acknowledged by his father and brought home. The internal strife was also intense. Ethan's abilities were mediocre, and in my previous life, it was my family's support that allowed him to hold most of the power in the group. This time, without my help, even though he has the memories of his past life, his situation is not good. He chuckled mockingly. I'm just feeling too restless, thinking about finding someone to talk to, and I didn't expect to end up here with you. Do you think I'm pretty much a failure right now? I said lightly, everyone has their own desired life and the path they want to take. Since you've chosen this path, whether it's success or failure, depends on how you perceive it. You are doing fine now, but it has nothing to do with me. I have a fiancé now. Mr. Ethan, it's better to find someone else to confide in next time. My partner gets jealous easily. Thinking of Leo made me smile. Ethan stared at me blankly, wanting to say something, but I interrupted him. Mr. Ethan, if there's nothing else, I'll be leaving now. Goodbye. As soon as I got into the car, Leo grabbed me and kissed me fiercely. Facing his possessive gaze, I smiled and tapped his forehead. Don't worry, I'm not the kind to go back on my word. After all, with you as this towering tree, I can't bear to let go. The wedding was held as scheduled 2 months later. The wedding scene was grand and dreamy. The moment my father placed my hand into Leo's, I saw his reddened eyes. At the moment the host announced the ring exchange, he placed the ring on my finger, kissed my forehead, and solemnly said, I love you. I put a ring on him too, looking at his beaming smile. I love you too. In this world, some people will betray your feelings, but there are also those who will embrace you with a sincere heart. Those who have a sincere heart should not be let down, so, Leo, in this life, I choose you. Even if I keep a part for myself, all the rest of my feelings are yours. If you do not let me down, I will accompany you to the end. Life after marriage remains plain yet happy. However, at this time, news broke online about Joy being drunk and renting a room with someone. The time and place were clear, and netizens were online watching the drama unfold. Ethan was blocked by reporters at the Yee family's entrance, and his entire demeanor looked quite haggard. The reporters' questions were sharper than one another. In front of the live camera, he threw down the reporter's microphone and pushed through the crowd to leave. I briefly skimmed over this news and continued to browse the newly released policy news. The phone rang, and I frowned as I looked at the protagonist who had just been live streaming. The heavy breathing on the other end said, Luna, I regret it. Can we get back together? I reminded him, Ethan, even if we both have our own partners now, I still wouldn't marry you. Haha, but in the last life, you were my wife, we are the ones who should be together. My heart skipped a beat, his tone was too off. I don't understand what you're saying. If it's not about work, please don't call me again. I'm very happy with my current husband, so please don't disturb my life anymore. After saying that, I hung up and blocked them, but there was a sense of unease in my heart. I had no mind to continue working, so I packed my things and went home. As I walked to the parking lot and sat in the car, something felt off. I glanced at the rearview mirror, my eyes widened, and I immediately pushed the door to get out, but a needle pricked my neck, and I passed out. When I opened my eyes again, I saw Ethan standing with his back to me. I sat there weakly, looking at the surroundings, and realized it was the school rooftop. "You're still in good shape, Ethan, what are you doing? Do you know this is kidnapping?" Ethan turned around and knelt in front of me, his voice gentle. "Luna, I know I was wrong. The person who is truly right for me is you. Joy is only suitable for dating, you are the one who is meant to be my wife. Can we start over? I was making a plan in my heart, it's possible, but let's talk in a different place." He stared at her intently. "You're lying. Luna has always been so clever, I knew you wouldn't be willing to think of a way out in a different place, right?" He stood up and smiled nonchalantly. "It doesn't matter if you don't agree, Luna. Do you know about past lives? In our last life, we were husband and wife, and we lived very happily, with children, the envy of everyone. Everything in this life is a mistake, and now, I want to reset everything to the way it was." My heart skipped a beat. What does he mean by this? I touched the phone in my pocket and secretly sent a message below. Ethan smiled nonchalantly. "It's fine if you call the police, it won't change anything anyway. We'll all return to square one." Hearing this, I immediately called the police and explained the current situation. I called Leo again and asked him to bring Joy over, maybe she could persuade Ethan, who is in his current state. Ethan listened to my phone call, looking at the time on his watch, saying there was still half an hour left. I looked at the time on my phone and suddenly remembered that the plane crash in my previous life happened half an hour later. I looked at Ethan in shock. "You're crazy, Ethan. You've already chosen the life you want. Just because it's not going well, do you want to throw your life away and be reborn? You want to die, I don't. Don't drag me down with you." I wanted to take a few steps, but my body was too weak. Ethan half carried me to the edge of the rooftop, looking at the playground not far away. "Do you know? When I was reborn, I was just about to propose to you. If it had succeeded, we would be married by now, and we would be very happy." I coldly smiled. "Will you really be happy? If you really end up with me, I'm afraid you'll start thinking about Joy again, won't you?" He was silent for a moment. "Sure enough, you have been reborn too." "I thought so, you were so calm when I proposed to Joy." "That's just right, let's go back to the beginning together and start anew. This time, I promise to spend a lifetime with you." I said word by word, "I am not willing. Even if I were to return to my past life, I still wouldn't be with you. You must know my personality, with such memories, I would only keep my distance from you." 20 minutes later, Leo arrived with the police, and Joy came along as well. Leo looked at me anxiously. "Ethan, I can be your hostage, to bring Luna over." Ethan shook his head, and Leo clenched his fists tightly. "Just put forward any conditions you have." Ethan shook his head again, and finally Joy shouted, "Ethan, I knew you still had feelings for Luna. So, what is it now? Do you want to die together or what?" Ethan looked at Joy and scoffed. "Now that I look back, the days spent with you seemed very happy, but they were actually quite boring. It was either drinking or clubbing, not much fun." Joy sneered. "Then break up. Now you say it's meaningless, but weren't you the one who played the hardest back then? Now that you're tired of it, you say it's meaningless. I really regret marrying you back then. If I could do it all over again, I would definitely stay far away from you." Ethan nodded. "That's true, I just want to do it all over again." He glanced at the time and murmured, "The time has come." I was taken aback. "Ethan, even if I had the chance to do it all over again, I could never choose you." He looked deeply at her and said, "I think you're right. If you go back with the memories, you definitely won't forgive me, so." He let go of me. "I'll go back by myself, I'll change the ending, start over, and take back everything that belongs to me." I fell helplessly, and Leo rushed over to pick me up and ran down. It was only when I reached the ground that I saw the ambulance parked to the side. And the airbag on the ground. After staying in the hospital for a month, my body finally recovered. It was heard in the middle that Ethan was not dead, but rather completely paralyzed and had suffered brain damage, not recognizing anyone. There was almost no possibility of recovery. Joy sued Ethan for divorce, and in the end, his family, the Pengfei, intervened to dissolve their marriage. Ethan, who had forgotten everything, spent the rest of his life in the sanatorium. Leo and I have 2 children, one with his surname and one with mine. We have walked hand in hand through year after year. Those who give their true hearts receive true hearts in return.